Chapter 6. I found my life partner and my health insurance because I got lucky. I'm crying again. It was to be expected. I'm 25 minutes into a call with a customer service department for my insurance-mandated mail order prescription service, a Kafka-esque phrase, if there ever was one. I began the call speaking in a calm, hushed voice, explaining how I'm still waiting for the delivery of a medicine that, while not necessary for my everyday survival the way insulin is still rather unpleasant to be without. But now I'm becoming frantic. I have a work call in 15 minutes that I need to prepare for, and my dog, who always seems to know the most inopportune time to beg for snacks, has begun to whine at my feet. I apologize for my agitation to the man on the other end of the line, who's trying his best to help in whatever way he can, though not very much. It's not his fault. Approximately 20 breathing through the nostrils and out of the mouths later, I'm transferred to a different representative who explains that the company somehow forgot to fill my prescription, but that they can have it expedited to get it to me by Friday. It's Monday. Is that the best you can do, I ask, as if we're negotiating the price of a used car? I have 1 day of meds left. It's when I hear the follow-up recording from my prescription provider that I am once again struck, punched in the face by how broken the American healthcare system is. A cheerful voice asks, "Would you like to speak to a registered nurse about how to manage without your medication while you wait for delivery?" I'm lucky, I remind myself. This is what luck looks like. I am lucky to have health insurance at all. I have a story I like to tell about my marriage. Not about the first time we met, the dive bar in Soho, the mutual friend, the whiskey, the whiskey, the whiskey. This is not a love story, or at least not only. It's a story about luck. I found love because I got lucky. I found him, he found me. I wanted him, he wanted me, flaws and all. No work was required on my part. I didn't arrive at some place of spiritual enlightenment, after which I announced to the world, I am ready for love, with my arms outstretched in the air. My before and after photos look almost identical, except in the after, I'm not alone. I found love because I got lucky. That's it. We got married. My husband was a member of a union with great benefits, and I was trying to make it in two fields, books, media, that were slowly and very quickly falling apart. So while floating from one job to another, I went on his health insurance. That made my life better, more stable in so many ways. I was still lucky, luckier even. Not only had I found love, I also had found health insurance. What a profoundly fucked up and profoundly American thing to say. I found health insurance because I got lucky. Before I met Josh, it was important for me to prove that I could take care of myself. I started my publishing career on my 22nd birthday, and it was a given that I'd always worked jobs that offered health insurance. I had a chronic illness that required constant access to life-saving medications. I couldn't afford to be without benefits. For me, there would be no bartending while finding myself, no rebellion against conformity as if I were a character in a 90s movie who takes a drag of a Parliament light before saying, "Fuck the man," and I could never work in an office. No, I would be entrenched in corporate culture from day one. There would be abusive bosses, but also free soda. The constant underlying threat of layoffs and no overtime pay, but also company-sponsored yoga in the conference room, and medical benefits. As long as I worked a full-time office job, there would be health insurance, and that trumped all else. It would never have occurred to me that healthcare was a basic human right that should be easily accessible to all, regardless of employment status. At that time, I didn't believe in luck. To this day, I still have never bought a lottery ticket. I believe in hard work, like any proud American who has been indoctrinated by the idea of rugged individualism, when really they were just born lucky. I was a big believer in personal agency, proud to be vigilant about my career and my health. I would not acknowledge the infinite variables in life that were not in my control. I needed to believe that there was a plan. Then I needed to believe that if I followed that plan, I would be safe. That if I worked hard enough, I could advance from support staff to management, as if I were unlocking new levels in a video game, leapfrogging my way to the middle, if not the top. And this worked for a while, throughout my 20s, but just barely. By the time I met Josh, I was 35 and felt ancient, the way we always seem to feel ancient at whatever age we happen to be. I had been laid off from a publishing job in my late 20s, when my small division was sold to a different company. I had felt this soul-crushing angst of filling out COBRA paperwork. This was pre-Obamacare, and tremendous guilt when I couldn't find another job immediately. I had not only lost my job, but my identity and my seemingly straightforward career path. Between 2008 and 2017, I worked at a number of book-adjacent startups where job security was not guaranteed. In those years, I survived multiple rounds of layoffs at 3 different companies. I'd eaten the free pizza that one internet startup provided to still employed staff after each mass firing. So lucky to still have a job at a company so mismanaged, with executives so overpaid, that our colleagues became expendable. I'd seen too many brilliant, industrious people sent flailing for no fault of their own to ever again believe that one could control one's professional destiny. Diligence and determination didn't do shit. If hard work was enough to be successful in my career, then why would I ever want to apply that same philosophy in looking for love? I think about all the dating advice I'd received throughout my 20s and early 30s as a single cis woman who, despite attempts at misandrous posturing, all men are dick faces, I'd say, swigging from a bottle of Heineken with my best Janine Garofalo sneer. Janine Garofalo. I don't know who that is. I very much wanted to find a life partner. There is a certain brand of trolling that single women are particularly subjected to, concern disguised as friendly advice that implies that you are simply not trying hard enough when it comes to finding love, as if a strong work ethic is all you need to overcome the smorgasbord of doofs you meet on the dating apps. Platitudes came at me from every direction, and each one was insulting in its own special way. You have to be less picky, said my mom's friend, as if I were choosing a small appliance or a pair of glasses and not someone whom I hoped to be compatible with for the rest of my life. You just need to find a nice guy, said another one of my mom's friends, as if nice was not the bare minimum baseline for any human being that I chose to interact with. Like, no kidding, I should date a nice guy. I should also date a guy who breathes air and smiles sometimes, who knows how to do laundry and bathes regularly. You have to put yourself out there, said a coworker, implying that I was being lazy, which, as you know by now, is the insult that stings the most. I will be damned if you think I am anything but a very hard worker. You've just got to date like it's your job, said a married friend who'd met her spouse online. Never mind that I was already overwhelmed with my actual job. Still, I was expected to multitask. This was circa 2008. Burnout was not yet a buzzword. You couldn't love anyone else until you learned to love yourself first, said every woman's magazine I've ever read, and later, RuPaul. As if I had to spend months or years working on all of my shit before I could subject another person to my messiness. I need to fast forward here and remind you that I am now very happily married, and I still don't love myself all that much. Both things are true at once. Women really can have it all. When I met Josh and we easily and effortlessly fell in love, I was so relieved and a little smug to realize that none of this advice was at all useful. Capitalism emphasizes personal responsibility in all matters, but finding love is a roll of the dice. Not that I would ever gamble. It's out of our hands. You can't girl boss your way into love. That health insurance is tied to finding love is just as cruel and absurd as tying it to your profession. A hard-won lesson that took me longer to learn than I'd like to admit. There are so many things we can't control no matter how hard we might try. No one's health should suffer for that. Imagine if all the morsels of advice that were flung at me as a single woman applied not only to the mysteries of human connection, but access to basic human necessities. It really changes the tenor of the discourse, doesn't it? Dating like it's your job, just so you can get that prescription filled. Learning to love yourself so that you can see that specialist. Wearing a date night top that is the perfect blend of sexy and sophisticated so you can get that MRI. These feel like terrible pitches for dystopian reality shows, back off TLC, rather than sound strategies for taking care of one's health and well-being. Although I suppose living with a chronic illness in America has always been something of a dystopian reality show. In our wedding vows, I described all the ways that my husband is not nice. He is generous with his time and money. He is warm, he is compassionate, he is fun, he is sexy as hell. But he is also not nice. Just the right amount of not nice when the situation calls for it. Your enemies are my enemies, Josh said to me in his vows, and I have never felt quite so happy or seen. In 2017, we got married on our terms. No being the husband, no white dress, no bouquet, no rabbi, no wedding party. Just a lot of food and joy and dancing with loved ones. A huge group slow dance to Purple Rain closed out the night perfectly. And also, as a woman with an established career and my own sense of self, I didn't even consider taking my husband's last name. Our lives didn't change all that much afterwards, but there was one perk of the institution of marriage that made a difference. For the first time in my adult life, I was able to ditch the corporate world and become a freelancer, exhilarated by the idea of having more time to read and write and think. This was freedom. And then I received my health insurance card in the mail. At first, I didn't know that it had arrived because it was addressed to my husband. His name was also on the card itself. Mine was not. When I eventually called the insurance company for one reason or another, an experience as familiar to anyone as type 1 diabetes, as getting out of bed in the morning, a kind customer support representative couldn't find me in the system. Apparently I didn't exist, not until I was able to give them my husband's social security number, which Josh dictated to me and I dutifully relayed. How could I enjoy my newfound freedom when my identity was virtually erased from the management of my disease? Being an independent married woman was starting to feel disempowering in unexpected ways. My name had been replaced by my husband's, quite literally. I'm officially Josh's dependent, which goes against everything I'd ever strived to be. Had I done feminism wrong? So now I begin the process of revising my definition of what it means to be empowered, relinquishing some small amount of my control to my husband and trusting that he's on my team, accepting that leaning on other people, even a man, is not a sign of failure, that being able to come to Josh for comfort after I had a frustrating call with our health insurance provider is, in fact, lucky. Lucky as hell.